Welcome to Reunderstood, where we challenge perspectives and rethink what we think we know.
It's me, Ibrahim.
And me, Mirko.
Together, we explore ideas, break down complex topics, and share insights from our own experiences. Let's dive in and rediscover the world, one conversation at a time.
Welcome to Reunderstood. I just realized we never gave an explanation for where the name came from, what the thinking behind it was. Do you want to elaborate?
It is rediscovering or rethinking about the things we think we know. We are sharing our experience with each other, hopefully with you guys also one day, and we want to challenge things. This is the byproduct of curiosity, creativity.
Because it's not a real word.
Yeah.
Reunderstood, right? It's completely made up. If you type it in, it comes up with an error or like the squiggly red line. But that's exactly what we do here, right? We re-understand things that we thought we already knew, and we come in here and we get a new perspective on things.
And making new words.
I'm liking this direction. Maybe we can, every week or so, we come up with a new word to describe. I'm surprised there isn't a word like that already, right? Like we've just come up with a word that describes.
Yeah, maybe not on a professional level, like having a podcast. But as I was Googling or searching in some social media platforms, those kind of words did come up. And I also seen one Instagram profile had Reunderstood.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But it was some girl, I don't know if any followers or none, so like something very tiny.
Okay, so if you're listening, whoever that girl is, potential collab right here.
Yeah. And also you can be guest on our podcast.
Okay, so we're on to, this is technically episode 4, but we had technical difficulties last one, so it was a write-off, which is a shame because it was spectacular.
Yeah.
But it does mean that a lot of the topics we talked about last week, we can go over them again.
Yeah.
We just reuse that material. You just have to pretend to be interested in the same things,
exactly.
Okay? So next time, or when you tell me that crazy story about the things you got up to in your university days, I'm going to be just as shocked this time.
At least you'll pretend.
Yeah.
Good.
Anyway, before we were about to kick things off, because we're starting to do a little more prep now. And one of the things was how I do my prep for the pod. And basically, I have this notes list on my phone it's called reflections. Mm-hmm. And in there, I'll write quotes, ideas, little things that come to me every now and then. And they're basically like springboards for conversations. Mm. So I'll give you just a few sample of things that are on this list, and you can interject at any point. It is preposterous because you never know enough to actually worry. So this is something that came to me where I was like, if I'm worrying about something, like what might happen, it's so ridiculous because I don't know enough to actually know if that bad thing is going to happen or not.
Yeah.
To actually have enough information to logically worry about something. Either I've taken all the actions necessary to prevent it, or there's no more I can do anyway, in which case, what is the point of the worry?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. And so it's so ridiculous thinking about why would I worry?
Yet your brain is working 100 miles an hour thinking of so many possible or impossible scenarios that will happen, and you shouldn't do that at any cost.
Have you seen this? I've seen this as a test sometimes in universities where they'll say, excuse me, provide 100 uses for a brick, right? Mm-hmm. And you have like a time, and you have to just write as many things as you can. Oh. So it's a test of your creativity, of how many ideas or how your brain works, essentially. So you can say stuff like, obviously, using it as a hammer or a nail. Oh, you can't use it as a nail, as a hammer. But you can use it to open a bottle. You can use it to draw a straight line as a ruler. You can...
throw it to the window.
Throw it to the window, obviously.
Yeah, on the top.
And I was thinking when you were saying like your mind comes up with things, right? If I wanted to get really creative, I would just think of something I want to do and my mind is going to get super creative about all the things that could go wrong. It's like, where is this imagination when I needed it? It only comes out when it's time to worry about things that might go wrong.
Yeah, about the bricks in your life. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, I'm going to give you another one, right? I've got another one here. So one I've got here is life as a regression model. So this one's a little bit more technical. Mm-hmm. So my background is engineering, and you can run, let's say you're trying to figure something out in engineering, like the volume, the capacity, the strength of a material. And you can run something called a regression model, which is like a computer simulation, like a mathematical simulation, where you have like a formula and you feed it data and you say, here's a bunch of data, and the formula iterates. It says, all right, I'm going to calculate the first iteration and I get one answer. Then I'll do it another. And it does it like hundreds, thousands, millions of times until it converges onto a final answer. That's called a regression model because it regresses towards a single final point as an answer. And then I think of life, you can run it as a regression model where you make mistakes, you do things, and this is just data, and you're closing in more and more on towards a regression point, whatever that might be, mastery, improvement, getting better.
That's in the essence, right? The life every day is another test, and how you do, how you perform, any unexpected things that are creating different variable to your life.
Absolutely. I like it. Okay, another one. We're rapid fire today. If you consume what everyone else consumes, you will think what everyone else thinks.
Wrong.
Wrong, yeah?
Wrong.
Okay, let me hear it.
Right, because do you have the brain as that person has? No. You might get same information, but you may have different understanding.
That's true, but I think a lot of the times your interpretation is similar, right? Which is why most people, the average person, consumes the same kind of media. If we talk like social media or YouTube or Netflix, they end up thinking very similar things, or the news even is a better example, because your thoughts and ideas are a culmination of the things that you consume. So then the average person ideally consumes everything the same as everyone else, right?
Also depends how clear the information that you absorb is. The clearer information is, less wiggle room. Meaning, if when we are reading a book and it's just like black letters on a white page, and that will allow you to spark your imagination as you are going through the book. And if you are reading about the same character in the same environment to different people, you might have different pictures in your head. So that's why what you said, it makes sense to the degree just if we have had same experiences regarding that topic, or as we said before, communication and meaning of the words, right? If we have the same foundation, then most likely we will have same outcome or same thoughts about that topic.
That's true. I've tried to put this into practice by consuming different kinds of information, and it's specifically with the kind of things I'm reading now. So in the past, I would read pretty common, popular non-fiction, science, finance, business books. And sure, I'd get a pretty good understanding. They're good books. But then I thought, it's just bringing me up to the level of everyone else. I feel like I'm now understanding things at a similar way that everyone else has. But now I started reading more esoteric stuff, things that no one's really heard of. The recent one I'm reading is it's an autobiographical account of sorcerers in South America. And this lady talks about the process of being brought into this community of sorcerers and how they think. Initially, I thought this was going to be some absurd, mystical, spiritual garbage. But really, they look at sorcerers not as we do, like some crazy, fictitious, mystical creatures, but rather normal people that just have a different view of reality. As in, their perception is, reality is whatever you decide it can be. And with enough of a strong will and determination, reality bends to whatever your will is, which is not too far removed from what normal people, or at least even the entrepreneur, thinks to some extent. Don't you think?
Yeah, you as an entrepreneur, you have ideas here that you would put them out. So they are just from what you said, that they have also different perspective on how they do things. When you mentioned now earlier those non-fictional, let's say, development books in terms of finance, and so it will bring you to the level of those who have also read those books. Still, there is probably maybe 80-90% of people who don't read those books. So still you are in top 10 at least.
But are you competing with those 90%
well,
of people?
You're
competing with the top 10.
Yeah.
Because the people who have read it are interested in presumably similar things. They want to set up a business, so that is your competition.
Yeah.
So technically you're only leveling the playing field at that point.
Yeah, you're making yourself a better player on that field.
I wouldn't even say better. I just say I think it's you're
more competitive,
in line with everyone else. Yeah. I don't think it's giving you necessarily a competitive edge. I think more and more my thinking has become my competitive edge is everything that makes me different. And now the things that make me more like other people, like common sources of media, reading the same books, information, news, movies, if that's going to make me more like everyone else, I feel like that's going to reduce my edge, my competitive distinction.
Yeah, on that field, yeah. But what will set us apart from those people is execution. Not the same level of execution. If you are better at it, that means still with the same information you got, you will be maybe among the top 10 of those top 10.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. The execution one is something I've been struggling with for a long time.
Yeah.
I've always been someone who prioritizes knowledge and learning over execution. This has been a personal deficiency that I'm trying to correct over the past few years, especially in this entrepreneur world where the amount of information you can consume is endless.
Yeah.
You could spend your entire life studying, learning about business and finance and money making and have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
And so lately I'm trying to make that shift towards more execution side, but it's so tough. It's like you have to, your brain is set in a certain way and now you got to make that change and try and do things differently. I don't know if that's something you're also trying to play with.
Yeah, I think that's challenge. Like it's easy to read and to have aha moments every now and then. But
This is what this podcast is doing for me. Aha moments every 5 minutes.
yeah, I hope you had few ahas so far. And if you are not putting into practice, then it's like a dead end, right? Dead road, right? No going forward. You can just go with car there, and I can't go forward. I'll go back. It's no use in a way, except for the people who live in that street. There is no use for that street, right? Street should lead you somewhere else, unless this is your final destination. Great. If not, you're in the wrong street.
But for me anyway, I was under this like self-delusion of telling myself that more knowledge was the path to getting to where I wanted to go. I kept saying, oh yeah, I need to learn this information in order to get to where I'm trying to get to. But I think that was more of a coping mechanism for inaction.
Reading book would be a GPS, but not the fuel in your car.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
So have you made any changes after coming across this realization about inaction and wanting to do things differently?
I would say that the blockage of not doing is fear.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to reduce the fear, whichever way works for you the best to reduce the fear, then you will be able to be more actionable.
I'll give you a reference, a story I know about this. So there's a rapper, Curtis Jackson. You might know him as 50 Cent, right? He wrote a biography about his experience growing up in the ghetto. And people see him as just this stereotypical thug, black guy rapper, wears a lot of jewelry, all this stuff. But what he writes about in his book, he talks about how he's curated this image very deliberately, and he's a very astute businessman. He runs several billion-dollar businesses, but nobody understands this because the image he's portrayed is one of this stereotypical gangster almost. But the title of his book is The 50th Law, and that law is fearlessness. And he talks about how he's built that up over the years. And he says, you never become fearless, you never reduce it. You just get better at doing things in spite of it, because the fear will never go away. You just build more courage in response to it. You just have to expose yourself over and over, because there is no courage in doing things if you don't feel fear. If I wanted to do something and there was no resistance, if it was easy as anything for me, that doesn't take courage. Anyone can do that. Yeah. It is when I feel that fear, when I feel that doubt and insecurity, or the risk of it all starts to creep in, and I still do it despite that feeling, that's courage, that's bravery.
Yeah.
And I think it's a muscle that needs to be repeated.
Sure. I couldn't agree more with that. It's one of the biggest, enemies that you might have. Like, again, friend and enemy, right? Like in procrastination as well. You can see as a protective mechanism, but also as a blocking mechanism.
How is it protective?
Protective is because you won't do some stupid thing. You might think through and, step on the brake before it's too late.
Are we talking like practically, physically, day-to-day life? Like
any activity that you haven't done before. You might start a business or anything else that you are not proficient at it.
So I'm having a hard time like finding an example in which fear in any of these circumstances would be protective. Can you give me an example?
Let's go with business. It's our field, right? Play field. So
Right.
if you also you see results, you might think that's not a problem. I can do it, but it might require financial,
Investment.
exactly, financial investment or something like that. So you will think about through like, is the money that I need to put in, do I have this money? Will it jeopardize my living? Am I putting more than I can, let's say, chew, right? Can I live with those things? So several questions are, fear is coming in questions and doubt, right? And then this will help you to analyze better, and you won't just go headlessly into any decision. So that's why it can be like a blocking thing. It doesn't mean that you can't break the blocks. Just it will hold you a little bit, reassess, off you go if you are reduce the block.
I see what you mean.